The Galactic Dominion had seen countless battles, but this one was different. For the first time in 1,000 years, a species had refused to surrender. The Dominion had conquered hundreds of worlds, crushed mighty empires, and wiped entire civilizations from existence with overwhelming force. Their war fleets numbered in the millions, their technology centuries ahead of most. No one resisted for long. But then came humanity. When the Dominion arrived at the edge of human space, they issued their usual ultimatum: surrender and become a vassal or face annihilation. Most species, faced with the might of the Dominion, gave, and immediately. The humans didn't. Their response was strange. No desperate negotiations, no cries for mercy. Just a single transmission. Acknowledged. That was it. No threats. No pleading. Just acknowledgement. The Dominion's War Council laughed. Another primitive race too proud to understand its place. The invasion fleet, 50,000 strong, moved forward, expecting an easy conquest. They reached the first human colony and encountered resistance. Primitive railguns, nuclear warheads, nothing that could stop them. The colony fell in hours. The second took longer, days instead of hours. The humans fought harder than expected, their weapons hitting harder than they should have. By the time the Dominion reached Earth, they expected to face a desperate, broken species. Instead, Earth's defenses were ready. And then the humans sent just one ship. At first, the Dominion thought it was a mistake, a single vessel moving toward the heart of their fleet. It barely registered on their sensors, its power output laughable compared to their dreadnoughts. Admiral Zrao watched the tactical display amused. They think one ship will save them? His officers chuckled. The Dominion fleet numbered in the tens of thousands. The human ship was a mere speck in comparison. Then the speck moved. It didn't engage in standard attack patterns. It didn't try to dodge, run, or negotiate. It accelerated straight toward the Dominion flagship. At first, they thought it was a ramming attempt, primitive, desperate. But then the Dominion's shields flickered. Systems shut down. Then the real horror began. The ship wasn't firing weapons. It was a weapon. Admiral Zill barely had time to react before his fleet's comms were flooded with screaming. Something was happening. Ships were going dark. Crews were being erased, not killed, simply gone. And the human ship kept moving, cutting through the fleet like a knife through flesh. The Dominion had sent 50,000 ships. In minutes, only silence remained. The lone human ship sent one final message before disappearing from sensors. Acknowledged. The war was over. Panic spread through the Dominion's high command. 50,000 ships gone. Not destroyed in battle. Not crippled in some last stand. Gone. Sensors had recorded no debris, no wreckage. Nothing but an empty void where the fleet had once been. The news spread like wildfire across the empire. Billions of citizens, conditioned to believe in the Dominion's invincibility, whispered in fear. Military strategists and scientists reviewed the data over and over again, unable to explain what had happened. Admiral Zill was dead, so was his entire command. No escape pods, no distress signals, just silence. The lone human ship had vanished after its final transmission. Acknowledged. The Dominion had faced resistance before, but nothing like this. It wasn't just defeat. It was erasure. And the worst part? They had no idea how the humans had done it. Emperor Vorin Chaw stood in the vast throne chamber of the capital world. His massive form radiated unease. Around him, his advisors chattered in hushed voices, trying to salvage some explanation that made sense. "We need to retaliate immediately," one of the warlords snarled. "Send everything we have. We'll burn their worlds to cinders." "Fool," hissed the strategist. "You want to send another fleet when we don't even understand what happened to first? They didn't fight our forces. They unmade them." The room fell silent. That was the true horror of it all. All the Dominion's fleets were designed to fight wars of attrition. They could suffer millions of casualties and still crush their enemies through sheer numbers. But there were no casualties. There was just nothing. The Emperor turned to his chief intelligence officer, a slender, calculating being with piercing golden eyes. "Do we have any idea what that ship was?" The officer hesitated before speaking. "Not entirely, my lord. But we intercepted something. A screen flickered to life, showing the last moment of the battle from a Dominion scout ship that had been too far from a main fleet to be affected. The human ship, a sleek, unassuming construct compared to the massive dreadnoughts of the Dominion, moved with eerie precision. Then, as it cut through the fleet, something changed. The footage slowed, zooming in. For a fraction of a second, a strange distortion rippled around the ship. Space itself seemed to bend unnaturally. And then the Dominion ships simply ceased to exist. The officer's voice was tight. Whatever technology they used, it wasn't conventional. We detected no energy spikes, no weapon signatures. It was as if they bypassed the laws of physics entirely. A shudder ran through the assembled warlords and strategists. The Emperor narrowed his eyes. And where is the ship now? A long pause. It's gone, my lord. No trace. For the first time in Dominion history, fear crept into the Emperor's voice. Find the humans, he ordered. Find out what they are. And for the love of the stars, do not provoke them again. But it was already too late, because while the Dominion debated their next move, the humans had already sent another message. A single transmission, repeating across every Dominion channel. Just 2 words. Still watching. The Dominion's paranoia spread like wildfire. Entire fleets were recalled from the outer systems. Warships fortified their positions. Research stations worked around the clock, desperately trying to decipher what had happened. But no matter how much they analyzed the data, no answer made sense. The humans had erased 50,000 ships without a trace, and now they were watching. For the first time in its 1,000-year reign, the Dominion was afraid. On the Dominion's most classified research world, Zyros 9, the brightest minds worked to unravel the mystery of the human ship. Every scrap of censored data, every intercepted transmission, every theoretical analysis was examined. One thing became clear. The ship had not used conventional weaponry. No energy discharges. No projectile impacts. Nothing detectable. The only clue was the portion seen in the footage. It wasn't a weapon, whispered Dr. Calter, one of the leading Dominion scientists. His tendrils twitched nervously as he stared at the screen. It was something else. Something more. Explain, barked General Voren, standing impatiently behind him. Calter hesitated before continuing. Our ships didn't explode. They didn't suffer structural failure. They just stopped existing, as if reality itself rewrote itself to remove them. General Venn scoffed. Impossible. That defies every known law of physics. Calter turned slowly, his eyes dark. Then perhaps we must accept that the humans know laws we do not. The word sent a chill through the room. For centuries, the Dominion had believed itself to be the pinnacle of intelligence, the masters of the galaxy. But what if the humans weren't just another upstart species? What if they were something else? While scientists scrambled for answers, the Dominion's intelligence network focused on a more pressing mission, locating the humans' home world. They already knew of Earth. It was classified as a Category 3 civilization, advanced but not yet galactic tier. Their technology was nowhere near Dominion standards. They had no known superweapons, no reality-bending ships, nothing capable of what had happened. So where had that one ship come from? Agents scoured every hidden relay, decrypted every human transmission, infiltrated their networks, and found nothing. No mention of an experimental warship. No evidence of unknown weapons. No signs that humanity even knew what had occurred. Their news networks continued as usual. Their military forces remained in standard positions. Their civilian population lived in ignorant bliss. It was as if humanity itself had no idea what had taken place. But if they weren't responsible, then who was? As the Dominion grappled with their fears, another transmission arrived. Unlike the first, this one came from a specific location, the very edge of Dominion space. The message was simple. *1 ship was enough. Do not make us send another *, and it included coordinates. The Dominion had been challenged, not with weapons or threats, but with pride. The Emperor hesitated. His warlords howled for vengeance, their voices echoing to the throne chamber. His strategists urged caution, whispering warnings of unseen dangers. In the end, he made his decision. They would send a fleet. Not another armada of 50,000 ships this time, just 1,000. A warning, a show of strength. And if the humans refused to explain themselves, then perhaps this time they could be forced into submission. The 1,000 ships departed within the hour, warping through space toward the coordinates left behind in that final message. Every soldier, officer, and commander aboard knew they were stepping into the unknown, but none of them could have guessed they would never return. When the fleet arrived at the designated location, it was exactly as described, a patch of empty space on the farthest edge of Dominion-controlled territory. No planets, no moons, no stations, just the abyss of the void. It was a trap, but for whom? Admiral Jarth Kren stood on the bridge of the command vessel, staring at the tactical display. There were no enemy ships, no anomalies, nothing, and yet unease crept up his spine like a shadow. The words echoed in his mind again. One ship was enough. Do not make us send another. He had dismissed them before as psychological warfare. Now, in the silence of deep space, he wasn't so sure. Full scan, he ordered. If the humans think we'll be scared off by empty space, they're mistaken. His officers complied. Sensors swept the void, combing through every wavelength, every anomaly. Nothing. No cloaked ships. No hidden beacons. No mines or drones. No gravitational disturbances. Then the lights flickered. Admiral Kren turned sharply. What was that? The calm officer checked his instruments. Minor power fluctuation, sir. No cause detected. Kren didn't like that. Dominion warships were built to perfection. Malfunctions didn't just happen. Confirm all systems are stable, he commanded. The officer's mandibles clicked nervously as he ran diagnostics. Before he could finish, a second fluctuation rocked the ship, this time spreading across multiple vessels. A cold dread settled in Kren's gut. Something was here. Something unseen. And then the screaming started. Sir, we're losing contact with multiple ships, an officer shouted. Kren turned to the tactical display. Icons flickered. Some vanished entirely. No explosions. No distress calls. Just gone. Are they cloaking? He demanded. No, sir. The comms officer hesitated, voice shaky. They're disappearing. That word again. Kren's claws tightened around the command chair. Full retreat. Now! Sir, we haven't even... Now, he roared. The fleet tried to turn. Engines roared. Warp drive spun up, but it was too late. Space itself seemed to shudder. Kren's eyes widened as he saw it. An unnatural ripple moving through the void. Not a ship, not a fleet, but something else. A presence. A distortion in reality. Then the voices came, not through comms, not through sound, but straight into their minds. You were warned. The Dominion fleet ceased to exist. Back on the capital world, the Emperor awaited news of his fleet's inevitable victory. On a massive display screen, the icons of 1,000 ships glowed steady. Then, in the blink of an eye, every single one vanished. Gasps filled the chamber. Warlords, strategists, scientists all stared in horror. No, someone whispered. Emperor Vorin Chaw rose slowly, his massive form trembling. Tell me this is a mistake. But there was no mistake. The only thing that remained on the screen was a new transmission, a final message from the void. 2 words. Final warning. Silence fell over the Dominion. For the first time in its history, they had encountered something stronger than themselves, and they were utterly powerless. Panic spread like wildfire through the upper ranks. The fleet was gone, vanished. No wreckage, no survivors, no escape pods. 1,000 warships, the pride of the Empire, erased from existence. And now, a message hung over their heads like an executioner's blade. Final warning. Emperor Vorin Chaw's massive form trembled as he read the words. His warlords and strategists stood deathly silent, their arrogance shattered. What do we do? One of the ministers finally croaked. For the first time in 1,000 years, no one had an answer. They had ruled the galaxy through sheer strength. Their fleets were invincible, their empire untouchable. And yet humanity, or whatever force lurked behind them, had rewritten the rules. The Dominion was no longer the apex predator. It was prey. 3 days later, the Emperor did something no Dominion ruler had ever done. He sent a message of surrender, not a declaration of war, not a demand for negotiation. Just 4 words, broadcast into the void. We do not resist. They waited. Hours passed. Then days. Every passing moment stretched their paranoia to its breaking point. Had they been too late? Would the next sign from humanity be another erasure? Then, finally, a response. Not through a transmission, not through comms, but across every Dominion star system, all at once. Every screen, every console, every display hijacked. The same message appeared, as if written directly into the fabric of reality itself. Acknowledged. That was it. No demands. No punishment. Just that single, chilling word. And with it, the Dominion knew. Humanity had chosen mercy. Or perhaps they simply no longer considered the Dominion worth their attention. The Dominion never recovered. They never sent another fleet beyond their borders. Never expanded again. Their once proud empire shrank into itself, crippled by fear. To the outside galaxy, the Dominion was still powerful, still dominant. But those within knew the truth. They were no longer conquerors. They were survivors. And every night, every Dominion citizen, every warlord, every emperor that followed would stare into the dark void of space, knowing that something watched them, something that had erased 50,000 ships without a trace, something that had given them a final warning. And if they ever dared cross that line again, there would be no mercy. Time passed. Years turned into decades. The Dominion, once the most feared power in the galaxy, became stagnant. Their war fleets, once instruments of terror, now patrolled their own borders like caged beasts. Expansion had ceased. Conquest had ended. Fear had reshaped their empire. No one spoke of the humans anymore, not in public, not in private. Their name had become a phantom, whispered in hushed tones, fear but never acknowledged. But fear alone was not enough to keep an empire together. Dissension grew within the Dominion. Some believed they had surrendered too quickly, that their fear had blinded them. Others believed they had escaped annihilation by sheer luck. And then there were those who whispered something far worse, that humanity had never truly been the enemy. Deep within the Dominion's intelligence archives, an encrypted file had remained untouched for decades. The last transmission from Admiral Kren's fleet. It had been classified at the highest level, sealed under orders from the Emperor himself. But in times of weakness, secrets have a way of slipping through cracks. A scientist, young and ambitious, managed to access the file. She expected censored data, battle footage, anything that could explain the disappearance. What she found instead was a message, not from the humans, not from any known language in the galaxy. It was something else, something older. A voice, cold, alien, and incomprehensible, spoke in a chorus of overlapping echoes. Translation software barely made sense of it, but the meaning was clear enough. The boundary was tested. The line was crossed. The consequence was delivered. And then one last phrase, a warning. They are not your gods, a challenge. The scientist barely had time to comprehend what she had read before her access was revoked. Within hours, she was taken from her home. She was never seen again, because the truth was undeniable. The humans had never fought them. They had never built a superweapon, never deployed some unimaginable technology, never even known what had happened. Something else had intervened, something older than the Dominion, older than humanity, something that watched. And humanity, knowingly or not, was under protection. The Dominion had not been defeated. They had been warned away. And across the galaxy, in the darkest corners of space where no empire dared expand, something stirred once more, because the boundary had been tested. And next time, the consequence might not be mercy.